millions of tons of water suddenly recede, revealing the bare seabed as a late warning. The eastern horizon darkens as a 50-meter giant wall of water swallows the sunlight. Thick steel cables snap like threads. The whole bridge crumbles and sinks into the swirling water. The Statue of Liberty stands alone in the sea, her resolute face facing the inevitable fate. The violent wave tears the base apart. The torch of hope falls and extinguishes in white foam. America's great symbol shakes violently, then completely disappears beneath the dark ocean depths. Floodwaters sweep through Manhattan streets, washing away luxury cars like plastic toys. Water pressure crushes glass buildings, creating a rain of sharp shards falling into murky water. The bright Times Square is now submerged, electronic signs exploding in the saltwater current. The subway system turns into deadly conduits, water erupting back to the surface through manholes. A skyscraper loses balance, tilting slowly then collapsing into the adjacent building in misty spray. No more horns or human voices, only the roaring sound of nature dominating the entire city. This is not science fiction, but a realistic geological scenario when the Cumbre Vieja volcano flank collapses. What happens when the city that never sleeps falls into an eternal sleep at the sea bottom? The story begins at La Palma, Canary Islands, where the Cumbre Vieja volcano flank silently cracks. A sudden earthquake sends 500 billion tons of rock sliding straight into the ocean. The impact creates a kilometer-high water column, starting a trans-oceanic tsunami. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, New York wakes up to a beautiful autumn morning. At the NOAA Warning Center, screens suddenly flash red, signaling a massive release of energy. The wave travels at 800 kilometers per hour, as fast as a jet plane. Air raid sirens wail across the city, tearing apart the peace of the morning. The drawback phenomenon begins, causing water in New York Harbor to suddenly recede kilometers away. Massive cargo ships lose buoyancy, tilting and grounding on the dark, muddy seabed. An eerie silence covers the harbor. Seagulls vanish, leaving only the sound of bubbling mud. Curious residents run to the riverbank to film, ignoring their last chance for survival. Suddenly, the eastern horizon turns pitch black, as if night is falling in broad daylight. The wall of water appears, taller than high-rise apartments, completely blocking out the sunlight. The Verrazano Bridge is the first victim, giant concrete pillars shaking under 1,000-ton pressure. Swirling water snaps steel beams, throwing moving cars into the abyss below. The tsunami passes the strait, heading straight for the upper New York Bay with undiminished speed. Tiny Liberty Island is completely helpless against the massive volume of water crashing down. Water pressure slams into the granite pedestal, instantly tearing apart the monument's foundation structure. The goddess tilts, the internal steel frame twisting, emitting ear-piercing metallic groans. The torch falls into the flood, the symbol of freedom sinking slowly into eternal darkness. The wave continues toward Manhattan, where millions are trapped in the concrete canyons. At Battery Park, the seawall shatters like an eggshell against the power of the ocean. Water floods the streets at 15 meters high, turning roads into deadly rivers. The Wall Street Bull, symbol of financial power, is swept away like a toy. Yellow taxis float, crashing into each other, creating chaotic underwater sounds. Panic-stricken crowds try to run to higher floors, but the elevators have stopped working. Lower-level skyscraper windows cannot withstand the pressure, shattering inward simultaneously. Seawater surges into offices, washing desks, computers, and documents out. A torrential river flows through buildings, punching through fragile drywall partitions. At the Times Square intersection, giant billboards still flicker before being submerged. Salt water hits the power grid, causing a series of short circuits and substation explosions. A substation explodes into a blue fireball, illuminating the dark, trash-filled water. Darkness envelops the city in broad daylight, leaving only light from flickering electrical sparks. The New York subway system, the city's lifeline, begins to drink its fill of salty seawater. The water rushes through tunnels at rocket speed, sweeping away every obstacle on the tracks. Air in the tunnels is compressed to the extreme, finding escape through manholes on the street. Iron manhole covers weighing hundreds of pounds are tossed into the sky like tiny coins. Water columns erupt from the ground tens of meters high, creating a hellish landscape. A moving subway train is caught by the water, slamming violently against the tunnel wall. Lights in the car go out, passengers fall into total darkness as freezing water rushes in. Above ground, water begins to erode the foundations of old buildings built a century ago. A red brick building begins to crack, the fissure running vertically from foundation to roof. The building loses balance, leaning slowly towards the street where the water is rushing. The architectural mass collapses, creating a secondary tsunami of rubble and dust. A domino effect occurs, one building falling into another, bringing down an entire city block. The Brooklyn Bridge, symbol of connection, also cannot escape the tragic fate. An out-of-control tanker drifts freely, crashing straight into the Brooklyn Bridge's stone pillar. The horrific collision shakes the bridge, suspension cables snapping and whipping like lashes. The bridge approach collapses, cutting off the only escape route for thousands of trapped people. Survivors climb to rooftops, looking down at the city that is now a sea of water. They witness fire trucks and ambulances drifting aimlessly, lights still spinning hopelessly. No rescue helicopters, no military, just complete isolation in the middle of the ocean. Water rises to the second, third floors, swallowing luxury stores on Fifth Avenue. Tempered glass shatters. Expensive jewelry and clothes float mixed with trash. A double-decker bus is swept away, tipping over and sinking into a giant sinkhole. The water surface bubbles violently as the bus disappears, taking its secrets with it. The UN building stands firm but surrounded by water, flags hanging limp and soaked. Inside the General Assembly Hall, water floods through exits, submerging delegate seats. JFK and LaGuardia airports disappear completely, leaving only air traffic control towers poking out. A drifting Boeing 747 scrapes its wing against low-rise buildings. Night truly falls, but there are no city lights, only darkness and the sound of flowing water. Small fires appear on rooftops, people lighting fires for warmth and signaling. A group sits around a fire, faces blank, soaked, and shivering from the cold. They look towards the horizon, where busy streets used to be, now just an endless dark sea. Helplessness is evident. No one speaks a word, as words become meaningless before nature. New York, the city that never sleeps, has now fallen into a deep sleep beneath the ocean. A doll floats on the water, eyes wide open, staring at the starry sky. The disaster does not stop at water. Underground gas pipelines begin to burst open. A small spark from a broken pole meets gas, triggering fires on the water. Flames spread uncontrollably, turning flooded streets into a hellish sea of fire. Survivors on lower floors are trapped between rising water below and fire above. Thick black smoke covers the sky, blotting out the last light of the day. Communication systems collapse completely, phones becoming useless bricks in hands. Broadcast towers on rooftops stop working as backup power sources fail completely. No internet, no messages. Information isolation makes fear spread faster than a virus. At hospitals, backup generators flood and shut down in the middle of surgeries. Infant incubators lose power. Desperate nurses use body heat to warm the babies. Outside, toxic water begins to mix with chemicals from industrial factories. An oil slick covers the water surface, creating a strong smell of gasoline citywide. Animals from Central Park Zoo escape, swimming confusedly in the floodwaters. Sharks and marine life follow the current into the flooded subway system. Building fire escapes are packed with people, leading to terrifying stampedes. The vulnerable are left behind as the panicked crowd thinks only of survival. Food sources run out immediately. Grocery stores are washed away or looted. Clean water becomes a luxury, while water is everywhere but undrinkable. Holland and Lincoln tunnels turn into giant watery graves burying thousands of cars. Inside the tunnel, water pressure crushes windshields, wiping out life instantly. Rikers Island, the city's largest prison, falls into chaos as water floods the cells. With no evacuation plan, inmates and guards are trapped in a battle for survival. Makeshift rafts, made from wooden doors and plastic barrels, begin to appear on the flood. Desperation causes people to fight for every life buoy, every piece of high ground. The water level begins to stabilize, but leaves a meter-thick layer of toxic mud everywhere. The stench from carcasses and garbage begins to rise, signaling the risk of disease. Night falls. Temperatures drop. Soaked people face the risk of freezing to death. Rescue helicopter sounds echo from afar, but too few for the millions waiting. Arms wave in the spotlight, then sink back into darkness as the helicopter passes. The Wall Street Stock Exchange, world financial hub, is now just a mud-filled ruin. Dollar bills float aimlessly, as worthless as fallen autumn leaves. Art museums flood, masterpieces of humanity dissolving in the saltwater. The New York Public Library, treasure trove of knowledge, becomes a giant pile of pulp. The second day's dawn reveals the true scale of destruction that the night had hidden. A 5-star cruise ship lies, blocking the intersection of Broadway Avenue. Broken bridges stand tall like prehistoric dinosaur skeletons. No car horns, no music, the dead city sinks into absolute silence. Survivors start coming down, dazed like ghosts in the broad daylight. They search for loved ones in rubble, calling names that echo with no answer. A child sits alone on a car hood, hugging a soaked teddy bear tight. Bodies begin to drift into street corners, images too painful to describe in detail. The National Guard begins entering the city on rubber Zodiac boats. They bring water and food, but their eyes are also filled with horror. Evacuating millions will take months, perhaps even years to complete. New York will never be the same. The skyline has changed forever. Skyscrapers that were proud symbols are now giant tombstones. Humans realize their smallness. All great achievements can be wiped out instantly. But in the rubble, seeds of unity and hope begin to sprout. A tattered American flag is planted by someone on rubble, waving in the wind. This is history's most expensive lesson. Nature always holds the final decision. The screen fades to dark, leaving a haunting question for humanity. Are we ready? The third day's dawn illuminates a surreal scene. New York is now a giant muddy graveyard. Waters have receded but left toxic sediments, burying the glorious past of the world's busiest metropolis. The broken Brooklyn Bridge stands tall in the mist, a painful memorial for what has been lost. This disaster is not punishment, but a cold reminder of the brutal laws of geological operation. We build skyscrapers to challenge the sky, forgetting foundations rest on the fragile Earth's crust. New York may be rebuilt, or it will become a modern Atlantis, sinking into history's oblivion. Cherish every peaceful moment, for against Mother Nature's power, tomorrow is never promised.